When I left the hospital after 5 long days, I expected one thing: my parents waiting for me. The discharge nurse even asked who would be picking me up, and I said confidently, "My parents." It was still true at the time, but by the time I dressed, walked to the waiting area, and checked my phone, everything had changed. Their message was short and brutal. "Just take an Uber. You'll be fine." No punctuation, no apology, just a digital shrug. So I climbed into the back seat of a stranger's car, still wearing my hospital bracelet, listening half-heartedly as the driver rambled about his fantasy football league. My head throbbed, my chest ached, and all I could think was 5 days in a hospital bed, and my parents couldn't give me one ride home. Mark, my fiancé, hadn't been there either. He had begged to cancel his work trip, but I told him not to. It was important, and I believed my parents could manage this one simple task. I was wrong. By the time I got home, I had no peace left in me. I showered, changed, and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, until it hit me. I wasn't going to rest until I had my engagement ring back. Before surgery, my parents had insisted on keeping it safe. Safekeeping, they called it. I hadn't trusted the word, but refusing them would have started a war I didn't have the strength for. So I'd played along, letting them take the small velvet box, even as every alarm bell in me screamed. When I arrived at their house, Mom opened the door with a smile too wide, like she'd been rehearsing it. Dad was in his recliner, half watching the news. I didn't sit down. "I came for my engagement ring," I said. They exchanged a look, quick, sharp, practiced. I'd seen that look all my life. Mom's smile sharpened. "Well, thanks to your ring, your brother's finally having the time of his life. Miami Sunshine. He deserves it." It took a second for the words to register. "What?" Dad leaned forward. "We sold it. Don't look so shocked. You'll be married soon. You'll get another ring." I gripped the back of a chair, the air gone thin around me. "You sold my engagement ring." "Oh, don't be dramatic," Mom said, waving her hand. "It wasn't doing you any good in a box while you were in the hospital. Ryan needed this. He's been working so hard, and this trip, it could really mean something." "You didn't even ask me," I said, my voice hollow. "You'd have just said no." Mom snapped. I laughed, then sharp and unexpected, startling even myself. Her eyes narrowed. "What's so funny?" I smiled. "Do you really want to know?" Their smugness faltered just for a moment, enough for me to see fear slip through. I didn't explain. I didn't have to. Because what they didn't know was that before I handed over anything, I had already swapped the real ring with a replica. The diamond Mark had saved for every spare dollar tucked away to buy it was still hidden safely in my home. The ring I gave them was worthless. I'd trusted them just enough to test them, and they had failed exactly as I suspected they would. When I walked out of their house that night, my body wasn't trembling with rage. It was steady, cold, and quiet. Because this wasn't just about a ring. It was about every birthday when Ryan got the parties while I got the leftovers. Every holiday when he was praised, and I was told to be grateful for scraps. Every moment in my life when my parents made sure I knew I was second best. The ring was proof. Proof that given the chance, they'd always choose him over me, even if it meant selling the one thing in my life that symbolized love and respect. Later that night, my phone buzzed with call after call. 10 missed calls before I finally gave in. Mom's voice was sharp, panicked. "Emily, what did you do? They said the ring is fake. Did Mark trick you?" I almost laughed. "The real ring is fine." "Then what is this?" she demanded. "How could you humiliate us like this? You chose to sell something that wasn't yours," I said, my voice calm, even. Dad thundered in the background. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Oh, I have a very good idea," I answered. And I did. Because for once, the weight wasn't on me. It was on them. And I knew this was only the beginning. By the time the 10th call came that night, I'd already resigned myself to their panic. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. The moment I picked up, Mom's voice cut through the line, high-pitched with anger and fear. "Emily, what did you do? They said the ring is fake. Did Mark scam you? Did he buy you a worthless ring?" Dad's voice bellowed behind her, accusing, demanding answers, as though I was the one who had committed the crime. I pressed my palm to my forehead, suppressing the laugh bubbling up inside me. "The real ring is safe," I said slowly, letting each word drop like a stone. Silence hung for a moment before Mom exploded. "Then what did you give us? How could you humiliate us like this?" "Humiliate them." That word almost made me choke with disbelief. "I gave you exactly what I meant to," I replied. "You chose to sell something that didn't belong to you. That's theft." "You set us up!" she cried, her voice trembling now. Dad barked in the background. "Don't twist this. You tricked us." I leaned back against the headboard, my voice calm, almost detached. "You begged me to let you keep it. You insisted on safekeeping. You took it. You sold it. And now you want to call me the liar." The line went quiet for a beat. Then Mom shifted tactics, her voice softening to something close to begging. "Emily, you don't understand. This is serious. We can't fix this without you. Please, you have to help us." I shut my eyes, feeling that familiar weight, the one I'd carried all my life. Always the one to fix things, to keep the peace, to shoulder the blame. But not this time. "You should have thought of that before," I said quietly. "Ryan needed this," she shouted suddenly, like the words could erase everything. "He needed it more than you needed some ring." I opened my eyes, staring at the ceiling in the dark. "And I'm your daughter. But that's never mattered to you, has it?" The silence that followed wasn't guilt. It was shock. Shock that I dared to say it out loud. I almost smiled at the thought of their faces. For once, the script wasn't going the way they'd rehearsed it. When I finally ended the call, their voices still rising in desperate shouts, I set the phone face down on my nightstand. The buzzing continued, but I didn't pick up. For the first time, I wasn't scrambling to clean up their mess. The panic belonged to them now, and the air in my chest felt a little lighter. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was close. 3 days later, they came to my door. The knock was frantic, uneven, like someone holding back screams. When I opened it, Mom's face was pale. Dad's jaw set like stone, and Ryan stood behind them, looking hungover from more than just Miami. "We need to talk," Mom said. "That's never been true in this family," I replied, leaning against the frame. "But go ahead." Dad wasted no time. "The man we sold the ring to, he wants his money back. Now." His voice cracked on the number. $9,000. I blinked, expression unreadable. Mark had paid double that saving for months. They hadn't even bothered to ask what it was worth. They'd just grabbed the first offer as if it were free money. Mom's voice broke in, quick and desperate. "It was all he gave us. He says if we don't pay him back immediately." She trailed off, lips pressed tight. Ryan stepped forward, his eyes bloodshot. "They're not the kind of people you want to owe money to. This could get dangerous." For a moment, I almost laughed again. Not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully, perfectly them. Steal from me, then beg me to rescue them when the fallout arrived. "And you came here?" I said slowly, "to ask me for the money." Dad nodded stiffly. "Just a loan. We'll pay you back when the mortgage clears." "Please, Emily," Mom whispered. "You don't understand how serious this is." "I understand perfectly," I said, pushing the screen door closed, just far enough to lean on it. "You sold what wasn't yours. You spent it, and now you want me to make it disappear." Ryan's voice cracked. "This isn't about you anymore. It's about all of us." I met his eyes, cold and steady. "No, it's always about you." Mom flinched as if struck. "We're your family." I held her gaze until she looked away. "That hasn't meant what you think it means for a long time." Then I closed the door. They stood outside for a few minutes, voices muffled through the wood, until they finally left. I didn't watch them go. The next morning, my phone rang. "Ryan." I hesitated, then answered. His voice was ragged, furious. Because of you, they had to max out every credit card. They even took payday loans. Their credit is wrecked. They might lose the house. I took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth spread through me. That sounds rough. Rough, he snapped. You ruined their lives. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. I ruined their lives. You blew $9,000 on a weekend in Miami. Tell me again who ruined what. That trip mattered, he shouted. You're right, I said. I'll never understand. You're unbelievable. I finally am, I replied, and hung up. The fallout came in fragments carried to me by whispers, screenshots, and pity-laced phone calls. A cousin sent me a picture of a for sale sign planted in front of my parents' house. An aunt called, her voice dripping with judgment disguised as sympathy. It's such a shame, she said. They're moving into something more manageable. Manageable, that was her word. The truth was simpler. They had borrowed recklessly maxed out cards and signed away their future on payday loans to cover the $9,000 they owed. Their credit was destroyed. The bank refused to refinance. The only option left was to sell. And they did. 2 months later, while they packed boxes and whispered excuses, I walked down the aisle in a dress that actually felt like mine. Mark stood waiting for me, steady and sure, his hand warm when he reached for mine. The ring, the real ring, glinted on my finger as he slid a wedding band beside it. My parents weren't there. Neither was Ryan. Not by accident, not by oversight. I hadn't invited them. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. After the wedding news trickled in from relatives who couldn't resist gossip. My parents had moved into a small rental across town. Cheaper, duller, reputation in tatters. At first, people asked if I felt guilty. Did I feel bad they lost their home? But guilt never came. They hadn't lost it because of me. They lost it because they chose greed and favoritism over respect for their own daughter. They gambled with something precious and lost. For once, I hadn't been the one to pay the price. Fast forward, nearly a year. I was 8 months pregnant, swollen ankles, a belly that made bending over a challenge, doctor appointments filling the calendar. Mark was nesting in his own way, carefully assembling furniture, researching car seats like a man studying for an exam. Life felt fragile, but hopeful. And then the messages began. It started with Mom. We want to see the baby when it's born. We'll be good grandparents. Let's put the past behind us. I ignored it. Then Dad, think about the baby. Don't punish us forever. Ignore. Then Ryan, always convinced, his voice carried weight. This is bigger than you. The baby deserves family. I actually laughed when I read that. The idea of Ryan lecturing me about family was absurd, like a cat teaching swimming lessons. Still, the pressure grew. An aunt texted me, "Why are you being so cruel? They're devastated. Everyone says you won't let them see their grandchild. Haven't they suffered enough? Stop making everything about yourself." My phone filled with group chat notifications, whispers dressed as concern, thinly veiled sermons about forgiveness. For weeks, I ignored it until one night I couldn't anymore. I was tired, achy, and done with their narrative painting me as the villain. So I snapped. My fingers shook as I typed into the family group chat. Since you all want to know the truth here, it is. A year ago, while I was in the hospital, my parents sold my engagement ring to pay for Ryan's Miami trip. They took $9,000 from a shady buyer, spent it, and when the appraisal came back fake, they had to max out credit cards and take payday loans to cover it. That's why they lost the house. That's why they're in a rental now. They didn't lose everything because of me. They did it to themselves. Send. For a second, the chat went silent. Then the flood came. Cousins swore they thought it was just gossip. Aunts gasped in disbelief. What? They did? What? Screenshots flew, emojis stacked. One cousin wrote, "I can't believe they blamed you when they stole from you." Another chimed in, "Always knew Ryan was spoiled rotten." The tide turned instantly. For once, I wasn't the dramatic one. They were. Mom tried to post a defense, typing something about sacrifice for family and helping Ryan when he needed them most. But her words sank beneath the weight of everyone else's disgust. It was like watching a dam break. Years of favoritism and excuses cracked open in one thread, and suddenly they weren't the golden couple anymore. They were the punchline. In the weeks that followed, I learned the rest through fragments of gossip. The Miami girl had dumped Ryan not long after the trip. Whatever special connection my parents had gambled my ring for evaporated like cheap perfume. Eventually, Ryan moved back in with them at the rental, all three of them under one roof again, clinging to a life far smaller than the one they'd sacrificed me for. Meanwhile, I built something better. My marriage was steady, my baby was almost here, and my home was filled with more love and security than my childhood had ever known. And yet, even with all of that, part of me still wondered, had I gone too far? Or had I simply drawn a line no one else ever dared draw? Months passed, and silence mostly replaced the chaos. My parents stopped calling, stopped begging, stopped trying to twist the story. But silence wasn't peace. It was absence, heavy and lingering. Relatives still whispered, but now it was about them, not me. For the first time, the spotlight of shame wasn't pointed in my direction. It was liberating and strange. When my daughter was born, everything shifted again. Holding her for the first time, I felt something I'd never received growing up: unconditional love that didn't need to be earned or bargained for. Mark stood by my side, exhausted but glowing, and I realized this was my family now. Not the one I came from, but the one I chose and built. Of course, that didn't stop the attempts to force their way back in. Mom messaged me a week after the birth. "We should be there. She deserves grandparents." Dad followed with, "Don't rob her of family." Even Ryan chimed in with his usual arrogance. "You're making a mistake. Kids need everyone, not just you." But by then, I wasn't shaken. Their words rolled off me like rain on glass. Because I finally understood something. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who respects you, who values you. And they never had. Not once. As months turned into a year, more details trickled out. The rental they'd moved into turned into something worse when Ryan's debts piled up. My parents tried to excuse it, calling it helping him get back on his feet, but everyone saw the truth. Ryan was still the golden boy, still sucking them dry, only now they had nothing left to give. Their friends drifted away, relatives kept their distance, and soon their reputation as the picture-perfect couple was nothing but a memory. Meanwhile, my life grew fuller. My baby learned to smile, to babble, to take wobbly steps, while Mark clapped and cheered from the sidelines. We built a home where laughter wasn't scarce, where love wasn't conditional, and where no one was measured against a brother's shadow. The more I lived in that space, the clearer the contrast became. Sometimes people asked me if I'd ever forgive my parents, if I'd ever let them meet their granddaughter. I'd smile and answer honestly, I don't owe them that. Forgiveness doesn't mean handing people the chance to hurt you again. It means letting go of the weight they put on you. And I had. They were free to live in the ruins of their choices. I was free to live in the life I'd built without them. The truth is, the ring had always been more than a diamond. It was proof that I was worthy, that I wasn't second best, that love didn't mean sacrifice without recognition. My parents tried to strip that from me, the way they'd stripped so many things in the past. But this time, I didn't let them. And in protecting it, I finally protected myself. I think about that sometimes, the little girl who was told to be grateful for scraps, who learned not to expect too much, who believed love was something you earned through silence and obedience. That girl would have caved, would have forgiven, would have handed over her child just to avoid another fight. But I'm not her anymore. I'm the woman who laughed in their faces when they thought they'd won. The woman who watched them destroy themselves with their own greed. The woman who chose peace even when it meant closing the door on people who should have loved her better. And as I look at my daughter, I know she'll grow up never questioning her worth, never doubting that she deserves love, respect, and joy without condition. That's the cycle I've broken. That's the life lesson I carry forward. So, if you ask me now whether I went too far, the answer is simple. No. I finally went far enough. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell me what would you have done in my place. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear them.